The message buzzed through just as I was finalizing plans for my long weekend abroad. Hi, sweetheart. Your dad and I are thinking of keeping Thanksgiving quiet this year. Just us, Lily, and her boys. You understand, right? I stared at the text, the corners of my mouth curling into a knowing smile. Not surprised, just tired. I'm Danielle Morgan, and at 37, I've gotten used to being the footnote in my own family. Lily, my younger sister with the Pinterest-perfect life, has always taken center stage. Even when I launched a successful consulting firm in Toronto last year, the only thing Mom wanted to discuss over dinner was Lily's newest kitchen remodel. Sure, Mom, enjoy your quiet time, I replied, my fingers steady, even though a familiar ache was brewing in my chest. What they didn't know was that their message didn't sting. It settled something I'd already decided. 2 months earlier, I'd closed on a secluded lodge nestled in Banff, surrounded by snow-capped mountains and fir trees dusted in white. A peaceful, luxurious retreat with 12 suites, a glass-walled dining room, and the kind of silence you can only find in nature. It was my gift to myself, after years of being the forgotten daughter. But I wasn't going to spend Thanksgiving alone. You see, while my immediate family had made it clear where I stood, my extended family never had. Aunt Rosa, who showed up for every science fair when my parents forgot. Uncle Victor, who drove me to college after Dad said he was too busy. Cousins who remembered my promotion, texted on my birthday, and followed my journey with genuine pride. When I invited them to spend Thanksgiving at the lodge, the response was immediate and joyful. Aunt Rosa, flights booked. Mark and I are counting down the days. Uncle Victor, just got the cabin layout. This place is unreal. Cousin Tara, the sleigh ride looks magical. I'm crying already. Cousin Nate, I'm bringing my camera. This is going to be a Thanksgiving to remember. 21 of them confirmed, every suite filled, and not a single spot needed for Mom, Dad, or Lily. I'd planned everything: gourmet meals with a local chef, snowshoe hikes, fireside wine tastings, and a Thanksgiving dinner that would honor the love that showed up. Not the kind that showed up only when convenient. They wanted space? They'd have it. While the rest of us carved turkey by firelight under a sky full of stars, they'd finally feel what it was like to be on the outside looking in. My phone buzzed again. Maybe you can come for Christmas instead, if Lily's schedule permits. I almost laughed. Still conditional, still tethered to Lily's availability, as if my existence only fit into the cracks of her life. I didn't bother replying. Instead, I poured my energy into final preparations. The staff at the lodge had everything under control, but I still reviewed every detail. Bedrooms had been assigned with personalized welcome baskets, activity schedules, snowshoeing, a private sleigh ride, a cozy movie night in the media room were finalized. I'd even booked a local photographer to capture our Thanksgiving week together. Then, a week before the holiday, Mom called. Danielle, sweetheart, I hope you're not too upset about Thanksgiving. Lily's boys have been so high energy lately, and you know how your father gets when things feel too chaotic. I stood on the balcony, overlooking the frost-dusted trees of Banff. Don't worry about me, Mom, I said calmly. I won't be alone. Pause. Oh? Are you spending it with coworkers or something? The surprise in her voice almost made me laugh. Like I couldn't possibly have a fulfilling life outside their plans. Something like that, I replied vaguely. Actually, I've got some arrangements to finish. Danielle, you're not working through Thanksgiving, are you? You know how we feel about. Goodbye, Mom. Give my best to Lily and the boys. I ended the call just as Aunt Rosa's SUV rolled into the driveway. She and Uncle Victor had driven from Vancouver a day early to help finish the setup. Danielle, this is stunning, Aunt Rosa said, throwing her arms around me. Your parents really have no idea what they're missing, darling, she whispered. I smiled and shook my head. They're about to find out. Uncle Victor gave a low whistle as he took in the view. Their loss. But I can't wait to see their faces when the photos hit social media. Neither can I admitted. Neither can I. The next few days were a blur of arrivals. Cousins with their spouses, nieces and nephews playing in the snow, aunts and uncles laughing as they stepped into their rooms. the air filled with joy, shared stories, and the kind of warmth that had nothing to do with fireplaces. Every evening glowed with laughter and clinking glasses. On the eve of Thanksgiving, we gathered on the terrace under a string of golden lights. I lifted my glass. To family, I said, looking out at the people who had chosen me. Not out of duty, but out of love. To the ones who show up. 21 glasses clinked in unison, and I knew tomorrow would be unforgettable. Not just for us, but for those who chose to exclude themselves from this celebration. What my parents didn't know was that their quiet Thanksgiving was about to get a bit noisier once they saw what they missed. Thanksgiving morning at the lodge was everything I had envisioned, and more. The scent of cinnamon rolls fresh from the oven blended with the rich aroma of roast turkey and herbs wafting from the open-concept kitchen. Our private chef had masterfully combined seasonal Canadian flavors with traditional dishes. Think maple-glazed carrots beside cranberry-stuffed squash. Laughter rang through the timber-framed halls as my younger cousins played tag around the stone fireplace. My phone buzzed, a text from Lily. "Happy Thanksgiving. Mom asked me to check if you're doing okay by yourself. We could FaceTime later if you're lonely." I looked around at the joyful chaos surrounding me. Aunt Rosa and Cousin Tara were decorating the long harvest table with dried flowers and candles. Uncle Victor was outside showing the kids how to build snow forts. Others were setting the food or sipping mulled wine by the fire. Lonely? I hadn't felt this surrounded by love in years. "Thanks, but I'm quite busy, actually. Enjoy your quiet celebration," I replied, then slipped my phone away as the photographer arrived. He floated between rooms, capturing every smile, every spark of joy, the golden light streaming through the windows, the cousins laughing over board games, the steam rising from the cider pot. "These could be in a magazine," he said, showing me a preview on his camera. The warmth, the setting, the authenticity, it's magical. Just past noon, my phone rang. "Mom." "Danielle, sweetheart, are you sure you don't want to join us for dessert? Lily's making her famous pumpkin pie." I stepped out onto my balcony, the scent of pine and roasted chestnuts filling the air as I watched Uncle Victor teach my little cousin how to sled down a gentle slope. "Actually, Mom, I'm in the middle of hosting lunch. Can I call you back?" "Hosting?" she echoed, confused. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses must have reached her through the phone because she paused. Where are you exactly?" "Banff," I said, smiling. "Bought a private lodge here a couple months ago." Silence. Then, "You bought a lodge? In Banff? Why didn't you tell us?" I breathed in the crisp air. "Why would I? You've made it clear that my life isn't your priority." I glanced toward the glowing dining room. "Besides, I didn't want to disturb your peaceful Thanksgiving plans. If you've ever been the one they underestimated, quietly building a life they never saw coming, subscribe to this channel. Because next time, you'll want to see what happens when the photos finally go public." More silence on the line. "Who are you hosting?" "Oh, just the family," I said casually. "Aunt Rosa and Uncle Victor, Uncle Leo and his whole crew, all the cousins and their kids." I paused, letting the words settle. "Everyone except you, Dad, and Lily. Actually, they've been here all week." I could almost hear her breath catch. "All week?" "Yep. We've done wine tastings, cooking classes, sleigh rides, and even toured the village shops. It's been incredible." The silence turned sharp, like static in a quiet room. But, they always come to our house for Thanksgiving." "Things change, Mom," I said gently. "Sometimes people go where they're genuinely wanted." "That's not fair, Danielle. We just wanted a quiet—" "I need to go," I said, cutting her off. "The photographer wants to get some group shots before lunch, and Chef Alain's about to serve the first course." I ended the call. A soft knock tapped at the doorway. Aunt Rosa leaned in, a glimmer of amusement in her eyes. "Let me guess," she said. "Catherine finally realized what she's missing." I smiled as she pulled me into a warm hug. "She did." "Good," Aunt Rosa said, her voice firm. "Maybe next time they'll think twice before shutting you out." The rest of the afternoon was nothing short of magical. Chef Alain delivered a 5-course feast that blended Canadian Thanksgiving comfort with elevated mountain cuisine. Maple roasted turkey, truffle-stuffed mushrooms, cranberry brioche bread pudding. Laughter flowed as easily as the wine, each course paired with selections from the nearby Okanagan Valley. Candles flickered along the table as we sat under a canopy of soft string lights, the sky ablaze with fiery sunset hues of amber and coral. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking about who didn't show up. I was thinking about who did. My phone buzzed repeatedly, texts from Lily, missed calls from Mom, even one from Dad, but I ignored them all. Instead, I stayed present, listening to Uncle Leo tell a dramatic story from his band days, watching little Grace sneak a third piece of pumpkin tart, laughing as cousin Nadia tried to toast without knocking over her glass. The photographer moved quietly through it all, capturing everything. Not just the smiles, but the belonging. Because this wasn't just Thanksgiving. It was ours. Later that evening, after the dishes were cleared and the stars came out, I checked my phone. Among the messages, one notification stood out. Lily had just added me to her Instagram close friends list. Something she had never done before. I smiled, knowing what was coming. Tomorrow, when the photographer's pictures began making their way across social media, when cousins posted stories and snapshots of our unforgettable Banff Thanksgiving, my parents would finally realize what their pursuit of peace and quiet had cost them. But that was tomorrow's reckoning. Tonight, I had something far more important. A family who chose me, who chose to be here, who chose connection over obligation. That was what I was truly thankful for. The morning after Thanksgiving, I awoke to the smell of fresh maple scones and the sound of laughter drifting through the fir trees. Through the glass balcony doors, I spotted cousins already gathering on the deck for breakfast, while the younger kids threw snowballs and made snow angels in the frosted meadow. My phone buzzed endlessly. The photographer had delivered the first batch of photos overnight, and just as planned, the posts had begun. They were breathtaking. The sunset dinner glowing under lantern light, children bundled in scarves playing in the snow, the panoramic mountain views behind our candlelit table, and dozens of candids filled with unfiltered joy. Aunt Rosa posted a full album titled A Thanksgiving to Remember, with a caption that read, "When one door closes, another opens, sometimes in the Rockies." Thank you, Danielle, for reminding us what family can look like. The comments rolled in, from my parents, neighbors, their church friends, their country club acquaintances, all gushing over the photos and asking why Catherine and Robert weren't there. Curious, confused. Lily called first. "Why didn't you tell me?" she snapped, half indignant, half shaken. "A lodge in Banff? With everyone there? Mom is freaking out." "Tell you?" I said calmly, watching the frost sparkle on pine branches outside. "Like you told me about your 4th of July picnic? Or the twins' birthday party?" "That's different. Those were small." "No, Lily, it's not different. You three built your own little bubble. That's fine. But I built something better." One of the twins started crying in the background. Lily's voice dropped. "Mom's devastated. Her friends keep asking questions. The Kowalskis even canceled Christmas dinner with us to accept your invite to New Year's. I hadn't even announced a New Year's gathering. Apparently the family had done it for me." "Good," I said simply. "I guess Mom got the quiet holiday she wanted. How was it?" There was a pause. "Boring," Lily admitted. Dad snored through football. The kids were restless, and Mom just kept checking her phone. "It wasn't like Thanksgiving should be," she finished. "No," I agreed. "It wasn't." I slipped my phone into my sweater pocket and stepped out onto the deck, where real family was waiting with coffee, laughter, and warmth. Uncle Leo was organizing a snowmobile tour for the afternoon, while Aunt Rosa and Cousin Tara were mapping out a trip into Banff town to visit the local markets. The kids were torn between building a snow fort or heading to the nearby hot springs. Someone suggested a picnic near the frozen lake. Then my father called. "Princess," he began, using that softened tone I remembered from childhood, the one he used when he wanted me to cancel my plans, for Lily's sake. "Your mother and I have been talking. Dad, I'm actually about to head out for the snowmobile tour with the family. Can this wait?" "That's what we want to talk about. Family, unity." I stared out the frosted window, where my real family was already bundling up and laughing, planning their day together. Your mother is very upset about all this, he added. I'm sure she is, I replied evenly. But you know what, Dad? I've been upset for years. Every time you left me out, every time you dismissed my success, every time Lily's life took priority over mine. The difference is, I turned that feeling into something better. But hosting Thanksgiving? Without telling us? Buying a lodge? Like the holidays you planned without inviting me, I asked. It doesn't feel good, does it? There's a pause. No, he finally said. It doesn't. Then enjoy your peaceful weekend, Dad. I need to go. Uncle Leo's waiting. The next few days passed in a joyful blur. We snowshoed through silent forests, tasted wines beside a roaring fire in a rustic mountainside vineyard, took cooking lessons from a Calgary-based chef who taught us how to prepare elk tenderloin and maple creme brulee. The photographer kept snapping away. Sled rides, game nights, group dinners, photos filled everyone's feeds. My parents' phones lit up with messages from friends. Where is this lodge? Why weren't you there? Danielle planned all this? The daughter they underestimated was suddenly the headline in every conversation. A week later, as suitcases were being loaded and hugs exchanged, Aunt Rosa wrapped me in a tight embrace. They'll try to get an invite to Christmas, she whispered. I nodded. Christmas is already booked. Oh? She asked. I'm taking everyone to my chalet in the Swiss Alps. She pulled back, blinking. You have a chalet? Thought it last spring, I said with a grin. New traditions, right? After waving goodbye to the final guests, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Honey, about Christmas? Your father and I have been thinking. I left it unread. Let them wonder. Let them finally understand what exclusion feels like. Because sometimes the best response isn't anger, it's elevation. And as I stood on the snow-dusted deck of my Banff lodge, already picturing the alpine slopes of Switzerland, I knew one thing for sure. I'd never spend another holiday feeling unwanted again. If you've ever been the one left out, the one underestimated, I hope my story speaks to you. Drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit home, what moment made you cheer, what you would have done in my shoes. I read every message, and your support reminds me that we're never truly alone when we choose ourselves. If you've ever been made to feel small, hear this. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to create joy where there was silence. Subscribe if you're ready to build your own version of belonging. Let's write new traditions together.